Apex Legends for the Nintendo Switch was supposed to come out in 2020, but today some news was shared that puts a bit of a damper on that. And video game industry analyst Michael Pachter, my favorite analyst by far, said quite possibly the dumbest thing I've ever heard about the Nintendo Switch, hence why I used the classic confused face in the thumbnail, well, because we're gonna have to go in on his analysis. What's going on, guys? I'm RGT85. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video before you leave. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. So over the summer, we of course had lots of fake E3 presentations from companies because, well, E3 was canceled, but companies still wanted to talk about their upcoming games that were coming to a variety of platforms. And of course, one of those companies was EA. Now, yes, EA's presentation was a bit lackluster, as EA presentations usually are, but we did learn about some new games coming to new systems. And one of the things that was definitely very interesting was that they seem to be upping Nintendo Switch support for the future between EA and Nintendo. 7 games were announced to be coming to the Nintendo Switch, and although we didn't learn about all of those games that were going to be coming within the next year according to EA, one of those games was the free-to-play game Apex Legends. Now, when Apex Legends first came out, it was pretty popular. A lot of people were playing it. I myself actually played it on my Xbox One. I had a decent time with it. I don't know, I couldn't really super get into it or anything like that, but I was definitely very interested to see how Apex Legends would run and perform on the Nintendo Switch because, well, it's a really good looking game, I felt. It was supposed to come out in 2020 according to EA's presentation. There's been a few updates here and there, but today we got an update that, well, the game is getting a bit of a delay. Chad Granier, who is the game director of Apex Legends, shared out the following information this morning. For those who game on the Nintendo Switch, we're still hard at work on the port, but in order to do justice to the game and make it into the great experience Switch players deserve, our team needs more time. This year has brought on unexpected new challenges, to put it mildly, and we don't want to rush anything out. Switch owners can expect to get their hands on Apex Legends next year, 2021. And of course, when Apex Legends does launch on the Switch, it'll come with support for cross-platform play, our latest seasonal content, and full feature parity with the other versions of the game. We can't wait to get Apex Legends into your hands or your TV-connected dock on the Nintendo Switch. So obviously that does put a bit of a damper on the game releasing in 2020, pretty much saying, hey, the game is not coming out until 2021. But you know what? I sort of understand that. I think you have to look at how the real world situations definitely impacted things as far as game development is concerned. I think all companies definitely felt a little bit of this pressure put on by the real world situations, having to work at home for a lot of these companies. And a game like Apex Legends is probably a bit graphically intensive, and they want to get it running right on the Nintendo Switch. This isn't something that you could simply just port over to the Nintendo Switch easy peasy because of the engine that is being used in the game. EA likes to use their own proprietary engines for a lot of things, so obviously some work is going into this. So personally, I don't mind. I'm not a huge fan of Apex Legends in the first place. I feel like there are a ton of free-to-play games on the Nintendo Switch already that are really good and really satisfying experiences. You know, if you want to play a little Fortnite, Warface, Warframe, like the list goes on and on. So while I do think people are looking forward to checking out Apex Legends on the Nintendo Switch, I think I would rather wait for a delay to make the game as good as possible rather than just rush it out to the market and it performs like ass on day one and then nobody revisits the game and nobody returns to the game. So personally, I'm not too super upset by this, but are you upset by this? Were you hoping to get Apex Legends on your Nintendo Switch in 2020? Let me know in the comments section down below. Breaking news! After complaining on Twitter over and over again about PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X pre-orders and not being able to get one in time from various websites, Geoff Keighley, our master, our ruler, our great god, has gotten his hands on a PlayStation 5. He got his copy sent from Sony today, like a lot of us expected him to get it. So shout out to Geoff Keighley. I'm glad you secured that PlayStation 5 while the rest of us who actually had to pre-order it have to wait for it because, well, you know, it just kind of makes you look silly for complaining about the pre-orders, but I digress. I wanted to share this breaking news with you guys because I knew you would be excited for Geoff just like I am. And finally, Michael Pachter. Michael Pachter. If you are unfamiliar with who Michael Pachter is, he is one of the leading video game analysts in the video game industry. And this is a job that I always sort of poke fun at because it's like, well, how do you end up becoming a video game analyst for a living? Like, how do you get people to pay you for your analysis on the video game industry? Now, that's not to say that there aren't video game analysts that I don't respect, because there are a lot that I do respect. You have David Gibson, who does all the Japanese related stuff, especially especially from Nintendo with the investors meeting, and then shares his analysis on things. Matt Piscatella from the NPD group, which tracks hardware and software sales in the United States. He's been doing it forever, and these are voices that I definitely sort of lean into when talking about news and information, because they're people that are very reputable to me. They're people that I trust, and they're people that I respect. But when it comes to Michael Pachter, you know, I like to say a broken clock is right twice a day, and that really feels like how Michael Pachter is when it comes to his video game analysis. Did you know that Michael Pachter thought the PlayStation 5 was going to be an $800 system during E3 2019? Yes, I'm dead ass serious. He thought it was going to be $800 because we constantly see video game consoles over, you know, $700, $800 all the time. But I digress. Pachter has been right about a few things along the years, but he's definitely a figure that I don't really respect because of the fact that, well, when Satoru Iwata passed away, he had some very harsh things to say before the body had even cooled. I actually made a video on it way back in the day. He blocked me on Twitter over it, you know. But really, at the end of the day, though, you know, it's whatever. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, and some stink more than others. But Michael Pachter, being a lead video game industry analyst, is someone that I feel like you could talk about what he says, because obviously his words somewhat hold weight in the industry. When Michael Pachter gives an opinion on something, people talk about it, whereas when other people give an opinion on something, you know, people don't really care all that much. So I feel like when you put yourself in the position of a video game analyst and you're putting yourself out there as one of the lead video game analysts, you are subject to scrutiny when you say something dumb. And holy Christ on a cracker, this man just said one of the most bizarre things that I've ever heard, and it's specifically about the Nintendo Switch. So in a recent interview with Gaming Bolt, which is a website, Michael Pachter said the following about the Nintendo Switch: "I don't really understand the whole hybrid concept. I don't think most people play it in both modes. I would say that maybe 20% of Switch owners play both modes, but I think most Switch owners play it handheld only. So I honestly don't understand the whole point of a hybrid. Who cares? Play it as a handheld." He then goes on to say, and Nintendo isn't that smart. So you never know what they'll do next, but I think the smart thing would be to get rid of the Switch console and have only the Switch Lite. Get rid of the docking station. Get rid of playing on the TV. Maybe offer a Fire Stick style dongle for those who do want to play it on the TV. Who is paying you money for your analysis on video games, good sir? Who is paying you money? Because this is the most outlandish thing that I have ever heard. First and foremost, you're pulling statistics out of your ass. There's actually documented statistics about how many people play it in handheld mode versus dock mode and who play it on as both. And it's nowhere near 20% only play it on TV mode, because a lot of people like to play it on TV mode. There are a lot of people whose Nintendo Switch does not leave the dock. If you want to take a very small analysis of just people that you know, I do a podcast, Class versus Crass, on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. over on Hey Jay's channel. You definitely owe me for this shout out, because I never talk about your stupid podcast, Jay. I hate you. I hate you with every fiber of my being. But I do that podcast every week, and there are a total of 3 individuals on that podcast: myself, Jason, and our buddy Greg. So I play it in both modes. Jason plays it in both modes. Greg plays it only in docked mode. So right there, if you want to take a small analysis and then give it as fact, you know, that 20% number, right then and there, I'm able to just sort of dissect that. But even looking at Nintendo Switch hardware sales, right then and there, that should completely destroy your argument, because the Nintendo Switch Lite does not sell nearly as well as the standard Nintendo Switch does, even though it is $199. Most people look at the Nintendo Switch Lite as maybe an entry point into the Nintendo Switch. Maybe you get it for someone who just likes to play casually, something like Animal Crossing, or maybe even for kids because it's a little bit more durable than a standard Nintendo Switch. But getting rid of the option to dock it to your television obviously sort of puts that system at a bit of a disadvantage, because, well, people like to play games on their television, Michael Pachter. And did you know, I'm not quite sure if you knew this or not, but a vast majority of games on the Nintendo Switch actually run better in dock mode than they do in handheld mode. So handheld mode is pretty much a secondary function of the Nintendo Switch for a lot of people, and I feel like they like to get that extra performance and visual fidelity that you get when you play your Nintendo Switch on your television versus when you play it in handheld mode. Who is giving you money for your analysis to the point of where you think it's stupid for Nintendo to have the standard Nintendo Switch and only make a Switch Lite? If you only make a Switch Lite, there is no sort of Nintendo Switch, because you can't switch it from a dock mode to a television mode. A Fire Stick dongle? I don't think that would really work, because A, you can't insert your cartridges into your Fire Stick style dongle, and 2, it would rely on Nintendo actually having a vast architecture system for streaming the games from the Nintendo Switch to your television, which, well, it doesn't exist. So that would obviously cost R&D development and something that you have to put time and effort into in order to create something, create an atmosphere, and create just an environment to where this would be able to succeed. Plus, you have to look at the fact that the Nintendo Switch is Nintendo's fastest selling system like ever. It's outpacing the Nintendo Wii at some points in time, which was Nintendo's most successful system up until this point. So why are you giving an analysis on a situation that is obviously very successful for Nintendo right now and trying to put it out as gospel that Nintendo should get rid of the Nintendo Switch system, when in actuality, that's the system that's driving hardware sales, not so much the Nintendo Switch Lite? Who is paying you for this analysis? Like, I'm sure you're a decent guy. I'm sure, you know, at the end of the day, you're a nice fellow. You know, you obviously do. Also, you do, you know, stocks and stuff like that. That's your other thing. You do stocks, you do video game analysis according to your listing and your ratings on your stock tips. You know, it's not quite that good either, but I'm sure you're a nice fellow. But there comes a point in time where maybe you need to realize that you're not really in tune with the video game industry anymore. You don't really understand what's going on within the video game industry, and you don't really understand what's going to be successful for video game companies. I know I'm kind of going in hard on this, but to me, it's just such a stupid thing. And the fact that this man has a large voice and a large following, I think that leads him open to criticisms and debates about what he says. When I make a video and I have a controversial opinion, people rake me over the coals for it sometimes. And you know what? I completely accept that. I completely understand that. But in the grand scheme of things, I feel like Michael Pachter is a much bigger voice than RGT85 is. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe we need to be the video game analysis and the video game analyst when it comes to things, because obviously I feel like we know a little bit more than some of these analysts do. But at the end of the day, this is a clown statement. This is a clown statement from a clown individual who has made lots of clown statements in the past, and I don't know why people still listen to him. So I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to take a sip of my Zevia right here, and then we're going to get to the end of the video. Oh, that's good. Alright, so that is what is happening in the world of video games right now. Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below what you think of everything. Are you a bit upset that Apex Legends is delayed until 2021, or do you sort of understand the situation? Are you excited for Geoff Keighley that he got his PlayStation 5 way before any of us did, because, you know, Sony isn't sending me one or anything like that? And Michael Pachter, does this man make a valid point? Should Nintendo get rid of the Nintendo Switch and only make the Nintendo Switch Lite, or should he just kind of shut up about things that maybe he doesn't quite understand? And as always, folks, thank you for checking out this video. Like I said, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Check out other videos on the channel as well, and as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.